particular space, to thrillers, crime fiction? You all said you want to be a writer of some sort. What made you say this is
well, the editors would say this was like 1973, 74. I think the Vietnam War was still kind of on. Nobody wanted to read a Vietnam War novel, which is why this one was never published. This guy who's a paperback editor said to me, everybody's interested in cops, especially New York cops. This is the era of Serpico, the Knapp Commission, Batman and Robin, the whole thing. And he said, I'm going to send you, we met at the bar, this is a good place to start taking a write in, might as well start where you're going to end anyway. And he said, I will send you 5 or 6 of these series, the Terminator series, that type of thing, was very popular, paperback pulp was in the 70s. And sure enough, he actually sent them, and I read them, and I said, I could do this. So, I mean, if you want to get published, pick the genre that, you don't have a problem, you're not overcome anything. This is what they were looking for, this is what I gave them. It's not what I stayed with. I didn't stay with police procedurals or police novels or mysteries, the mystery genre. But it got me into the business.
How about you, Brad? I know you branched out to produce some books on heroes for your son and your daughter. But initially, what made you choose your genre?
You know, for me, I just remember when I was younger, going to the library and getting a book by Agatha Christie. And Agatha Christie wrote, the first book I read that I remember really reading was Murder at the Vicarage. And to this day, I don't know what a vicarage is, right? I'm Jewish, I don't know. You know what? Don't tell me, I don't want to know to this day, but I remember that in chapter 1 right there, I opened that book, and as I went through it, there was a dead body, right? There was a dead person right there lying on the ground, and you can't help but ask, to me, the most important question of all, right? Which is, who done it? And I just remembered wanting to know, and it was the first book I ever remember. People like to put their nose in the air, especially here, and talk about the great book that they read, and they want to mention Moby Dick or Lolita or something that sounds impressive. But to me, it was Agatha Christie. It was the only thing that made me turn the pages until they did it, and I loved it. And those are only people from HarperCollins because they published Christie. But the truth was, I was obsessed. That was what made me turn. So that was what I went to. Just what I loved. I didn't really think about the commercial side of it. It's just the one thing I responded to.
And Michael, was it what you knew, having been a reporter?
No, because I wanted to be the writer before I was a reporter. Yeah, I think you write what you read, I always had a hard time reading the classics, and getting into them, but I didn't have a hard time reading a good crime novel with, a relentless character at the center of it, trying to find, who did it, it's some kind of hidden truth. It's just, maybe my, being a teenager or something, these stories were very powerful to me, so it just became a natural thing that I would want to, write these kind of stories.
And Michael, I've read The Prophet now, but I understand you write very different things, and it's...
Yeah, it ranges around a little bit. But I think it all goes back to what Brad and Michael and Nelson are talking about here, which you write what you're compelled to read, and I think, much like with Brad, I go back to that central question. Our lives are so filled with uncertainty at every level. They're so fragile. And live this little level of safety that can be disrupted very easily. And I think the writers that I sparked to early as a reader, from the 3 gentlemen up here to Stephen King, to Raymond Chandler, to Dennis Lehane, they were all writers who took that form, that question, who done it or why, and they brought it into an emotional context, a personal context, in which you felt a deep emotional investment in a character. And you said, this could happen to me. No matter how strange, no matter how horrible. And when you build that relatability, when that bond is there between the character and the audience, that's a magical experience. And it's an experience to have that as a reader, you want to carry that over and you try and create it yourself. So that's my
Excellent.
Does anyone know what a vicarage is?
Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
Well, kind of very rapidly, you mentioned Agatha Christie. It's top of mind, not for posterity's sake, authors that inspired you early on. Who comes to mind?
Well, Hemingway first. Even Ian Fleming. I mean, back in the early 60s when I was in college, everybody was reading Ian Fleming. And because we had to read something like Hemingway and Steinbeck. All of them, they were all great. And then Agatha Christie was another one. That was what I used to read for fun. And Dorothy Sayers and all these English mysteries. What I could read over and over and over again is Sherlock Holmes. I could read Conan Doyle. I don't know what the magic was. It's so simple. It's not, by today's standards, there's nothing complex about it. There's nothing particularly sophisticated about it. But there's something that man did with the writing, and I wish I could, we could all analyze it and novel it maybe. But I could read complete works of Sherlock Holmes probably every year.
Anybody else?
You know, obviously, beside Christie, I never reread books. I never do. I'm just like, I want to read the next one. And
Except your own.
Right, except my own. I read. Sometimes what I do is I actually read my own book and watch myself on my own TV show. That's pretty much, I just sit there and I'm just like, oh.
In your house of mirrors?
That's right. Mirrors, and I just go, oh, no, you've done it again. That's pretty much all I do in my life. But beyond Christie, this guy named Ken Grimwood, who wrote a book called Replay. And Replay starts with a guy in his late 30s, he's sitting at his desk and he drops dead, and he wakes up and he's in his college dorm room. And he looks around and he gets to replay his life. And then when he gets to that exact age in his late 30s, on that exact day and exact time, he bets on the Mets winning the '69 series, he makes a lot of money, becomes rich as could be, gets the exact same day, exact same time, and he dies. And he gets to replay again. He realizes money didn't solve anything. And then he says, okay, I'm going to live my life. He invests in Apple, and he finds a guy in a garage named Steve Jobs, and he does all, I'm going to change it again. Dies again. And I won't spoil the book for you, but what I love about the book is you can't help when you hear that plot to think to yourself, what would I do if I could relive my life again? And that, to me, is a great book because it makes you ask the question about yourself. So that book just put its hooks in me, and it's actually, I'm rereading it right now, and it's just as good as I remember, which is the best kind of book.
You're rereading a book you don't reread.
I'm rereading a book called Replay that replays the time I was rereading the book Replay.
Oh, well, you said inspiration. So, I mean, I was pretty widely read, but it was just, I was in the mode, like, I love reading this stuff. And when I read Raymond Chandler's books, it switched to, I want to write this stuff. So, I think that was the point of inspiration, that shifted me towards the direction of wanting to be a writer.
Extra points if you mention anybody else on this panel.
Chandler and Hammett, and it led to Mr. Connolly, among others. But my dad was a big fan of film noir, Bogart movies, Hitchcock, that sort of thing. So I actually started earlier in the genre. I started with Ross McDonald and Chandler and Hammett. I worked up, and then it was when I found writers like Dennis and Michael who were taking that, the tradition, but moving it towards something contemporary and fresh, and a lot more. I think character depth. That's what I really responded to, and it's that point, like you said, the transition between I enjoy reading this to I want to write this. That's really significant moment.
The first time I met him, and he told me that stuff. It was very nice of him to say that to me. I said, "Can I buy you a drink?" And he said, "I'm not old enough."
I'm not old enough. I've only written 6 books.
Yeah, and he'd already published like 4 books.
That's 6 months, guys. Well, Mike Connolly, you